This is Why My Business Works, the podcast for creative business owners that are building their business on their own terms. We talk to interior designers and architects running firms of all shapes, sizes, ages, origins, and philosophies as we set out to show that there is no prescription for success, whatever that means. Business is both an art and a science, and no one else has a business exactly like yours. I'm Megan Dolly, strategist, CFO, and your hostess. Today we have Susann Eva Goerg is an interior designer and creative director working mainly on residential projects in New York, New Jersey, and virtually nationwide. For 10 years as an art and creative director for global brands, her work appeared everywhere, from television to full-page ads in the Wall Street Journal and The Economist to a Times Square takeover. She now brings that same high-impact storytelling to interior design, creating dynamic dialogue between art and design. Today, Susann designs art-forward interiors for high-level clients, elevating both their spaces and their quality of life. She challenges the norm by refusing to let art be an afterthought and drives the conversation through collaborations, speaking, and content. I am so excited for you all to get Susann's perspective on art because it just tickles me all the way down to my toes. I'm a huge fan of artists. I'm a huge fan of creators, and this just encompasses all of it. Welcome, Susann.
Thank you for having me. What a lovely intro. So excited to be here.
I am excited to have you here. We're going to get into the guts in a little bit, which I'm
Yes.
really, really anticipating. But we're going to start with the data because I want people to see that there's all shapes and sizes out there. So let's begin with how long have you been in business for interior design?
So interior design is my second career, and I started this business in, I think, March 2018.
Okay. And what does your staff look like, whether they're full-time, part-time, contractors, employees?
So I'm still a solopreneur, but I have contractors on hand that when I work with larger projects or need certain expertise or skills, I outsource it, like technical drawings or photography or a little bit of art curation as well. So we have, our people, our trusted partners we pull from.
Absolutely. And do your projects range?
So based in New York City, obviously, there are all kinds of requests from clients. So we work from apartments, minimum 2-room spaces, up to full houses, mostly in New Jersey, and often we work our way through the whole house. That's the exciting part.
How many projects do you handle at a time?
So at the moment, we have 2 projects running. I think we have a maximum capacity of maybe 3 because it always depends on what stage the project is in, right? So you can kind of try to align the timelines to make sure everyone is served well.
And that seems like a beautiful limit on being able to give that personal contact and that personal
Absolutely.
service to your
Yeah.
clients as well.
You don't want to dismiss the quality of the service. You want to make sure you can serve everyone well. And we would rather say no to someone if we don't have the capacity. Put them on the wait list.
Yes. And what's your pricing model?
I tried a lot, and I don't want to go too deep into that
Totally fine.
exploration, but we now charge for the design a flat fee. And then for implementation, we charge by the hour because we cannot control the contractors and the trades. So that's our model right now.
Absolutely. And as far as a niche,
So my niche, I don't have a certain style or anything like that. Maybe if you look at my work, you would identify a style, but we're very flexible when it comes to style. But our focus is really the art forward interior design and creating that dialogue between art and the space it surrounds it and elevating both at the same time.
okay, that is a beautiful spot to kick off here. The art. When we first spoke, you told me about a piece of art that you have in your room that makes you happy.
Yes.
Can we start there?
It's almost, I think it's almost the origin story of how the focus, the niche, you call it, all started when I was designing my own bedroom. We had this, empty wall across from the bed. I'm not a big fan of putting art above the headboard because I don't see it there. So when I was looking at artwork, I came across this piece and my mind couldn't let it go. I, slept over it, and it was in my shopping cart. I had to have it. And the interesting part about that piece of art, it's so not me. If you know me, I'm not a pink kind of girl. I'm more like a tomboy and a very serious German, so to speak. And this piece of art is the opposite. And that's the interesting part. So when I hung it on the wall, let me describe it to you. It's a large scale fine art print. It's in a very traditional room setting, very bright, very light, wooden floors, white wall paint, and then there's a black piano at the center of it. And then out of this black piano, they're floating blush pink balloons. They're just airing up into the air, very soft and subtle. And it really fills this little piece in my heart, in my soul, that I want to be more airy and light, just like these balloons. And purchasing and having this piece of art now across from my bed and waking up to it, it really can dictate my day. It can influence how I want to show up. Not just always this serious German person, but the more lighthearted, airy kind of blush attitude to my life. I don't know. And ever since that happened, I realized it's undeniable what artwork can do. I experienced it myself, and I want to give that back to my clients as well.
That's lovely. And the fact that it hasn't worn off, that feeling hasn't worn off with that
No,
piece.
absolutely not. This will carry through my life. If I move, this will come with me for sure.
Great. Okay, so you mentioned at the beginning of this answer that this was kind of the kickoff to your design career or the design angle. Which one was it? Which came first?
The angle. It was when you start your business, when I started in 2018, you start off getting your feet wet. You take every project, you're kind of figuring out what is it that's my secret sauce, my power. And you got to figure it out eventually, because that's what draws a certain clientele to you as well and differentiates you from other designers in the industry. So up until that point, obviously I had a thought out process, and maybe people would come to me for more European inspired contemporary style, but I didn't have that little thing that makes you stand out. And I think it was only maybe 2 years into the business that moment happened. So it took a while to find that.
Okay.
And also to, decide to run with it and make it and stand for it and make it what I want to be known for.
So how did you decide on interior design? You had such a lustrous career in terms of the marketing and the branding part. Like, I mean, Times Square, that's no small feat.
Yes, that was
So
a big fun project.
so what brought you into interior design?
I always had a passion for interior design. When I grew up, I would rearrange my brother's and my bedroom. We shared a bedroom. I would rearrange it every other weekend. And one night he didn't even find his bed in the same spot. So that was funny. In Germany, this career didn't exist. So the next best thing that I found really inspired me and had this color and craft and balance and harmonies was graphic design. And that's how I ended up working in graphic design first, then working for advertising agencies, developing my career, becoming more of an art and creative director, not just executing other people's ideas, but coming up with the ideas myself. And that was also the reason that brought me to New York, the mecca of the advertising world. But, after years in the business and having great accomplishments and growing with it, that passion for interior design kept bubbling up, especially in New York. When I came here, I moved a lot. So every time the space, I made it the best it could be. And I think that might have been part of it, always looking for the opportunity, even if it's a rental, to make it the best it can be to support your life. And that's how the passion kept bubbling up, and I had to pull the trigger. I don't like to live with what ifs, so that's how it all happened.
So, as you were beginning like this intentional move from marketing over to interior design, did you start with education? Did you start with finding clients?
All of the above. So essentially, with the graphic design background and the art and creative direction background, there's a lot of similarities when it comes to the actual design and creating spaces. Imagine for a TV spot, you also create a set, right? So you design how that's going to look like, how this is going to tell a story. So a lot of like harmonies and color balance and, spatial knowledge is already there. But I made sure that I also study the basics, the furniture styles, the history, drawing floor plans like an architect with different thick pencil lines and things like that. So I made sure I study that on an online self-paced course. And then my first clients were literally friends and ex-colleagues. I was like, what can I do for you? Let's get started. You get that project for a low fee in the beginning, and let's see. There were my test subjects, I guess, very welcome test subjects to get started while I was, getting the basics down, that the stuff you need. But what they don't teach you, obviously, is the business side of everything.
Yeah, we talked about that as well. Like that business side in interior design school is a little lacking
Or not there at all.
or not there at all. So when did you realize that this was a hole and what did you do about it?
It's kind of daunting, right? You want to create those spaces for people. You're following your passion, but you're not aware of what is it going to take on the business side, running a business. Now, today, I say it's probably 89% business and the rest is the design. And you just take it day by day. Every challenge, you figure it out. You research online, you think about it, you ask some people. No one really tells you how to run a business. I did find eventually a supportive business group of creatives where it's all about how you can make money and a living with your passion, with your creativity. So that was super useful. That's the Future Pro Group. That's how they're called. So I've been part of that for a long time. That was really helpful in terms of sales as well, and automations, how to speak to potential clients, have like calls and all those business things, but also mindset things, how to keep going.
Oh, what a valuable find.
Yes, absolutely.
And then when did you enter like the world of art? Have you always been interested in art?
I'm actually not the biggest museum goer. I always liked seeing art in context. For me, when I saw art, it was always about where is it hanging? What does it say about this space? Why did they put it there? So I was more attuned to seeing spaces that, buildings that have art in their hallways or popping into a gallery. I always felt that it was more tuned in human connection, while I felt museums, I don't know, there was something more stuffy about it. Obviously, there are all kinds of museums, but I want to bring it closer to a real life setting than in a museum, if that
Can you
makes
tell
sense.
Absolutely. Can you tell me about the effect that it has on your clients, their results or their reactions or their long-term reactions of how this art has impacted their spaces?
So the interesting part is sometimes you have clients who already have artwork and sometimes they want to start acquiring something. One of my clients, she actually had a piece of artwork, not huge monetary value, but emotional value. And it was living at that wall that didn't even get the attention or the viewpoint to be appreciated. So what we did, we actually carved out the space in a way and reset the whole layout to make it the focal point. So when she walks into the space, it's the center viewing angle, the perspective. You see it right away. And we really, maybe it's the star of the room. And then we created the space around it, right? Not matching the colors, but both talking to each other and creating the space where the artwork can really show its impact, while it also elevates the space around it by the artwork being in the right spot and being the right scale. So now this piece that was just on the wrong wall for the longest time is this centerpiece in her living room. When we first designed her space and everything was done, she was like, Susan, I don't even want to leave my apartment anymore. I'm just gonna stay here in my living room and sleep on this new sectional that's so comfy and cozy. I don't want to use my bedroom. We did the living room and the dining space. It was a connected space. So words of appreciation like that, I don't want to leave my space, it's like everything you do it for. Yes. And the same even with her kitchen, not to interrupt you, but with her kitchen as well, just popped in my mind. We also put some really beautiful artwork there. The thing there was that she had this kitchen, it wasn't a rental, so we couldn't like completely rip it out, but we could redesign it, remodel it, new countertop, new wall paint, a bright yellow ceiling, fresh yellow ceiling. But she wanted to use the kitchen again, which she hasn't been really felt inspired to cook in that space. And what we did with the artwork here was we found something that represented one of her favorite restaurants in the neighborhood that had since closed, but we found this amazing line drawing from a local artist in Harlem, and we hang it above her stove, and now she feels like, oh, I will be the chef of my own kitchen, and I want to maybe recreate some recipes I have eaten at that now sadly closed restaurant. But can you see how bringing especially that piece of art into the space, not something random that doesn't speak to her, now inspires her to be the chef of her own kitchen again?
Yeah, and what an honor to that other space. Back in college, I had this religion class where we talked about the numinous for like half the semester of just having a space that feels somehow holy.
Yeah.
And almost that restaurant is that place of home, that place of those memories, that place of a feeling that she's able to bring back in simply because of a piece of art.
Yeah.
How do you go find the art for your clients? Other than if they're coming in with their own, that's one story. But if you're influencing a selection for a space, how does that work?
Oof, tricky question. It depends. It depends on what they want to invest, right? So if it's someone who hasn't really started collecting or purchasing art and they have a limit that it doesn't make sense to engage an art consultant, then I go out and find it. There are different, I have built so many relationships with galleries in New York City, so I can tap into that. But then also there are online resources that I look at, and often we have spoken in detail about what kind of maybe style they want, or we have assessed how large the piece should be, what they can invest, and maybe even like what. So we have some inspiration and we go out, and maybe even like one client, they wanted an artist from a specific region. So that was more challenging, but a lot of platforms or connections, you can tell them that information, and then you can limit the selection by those details, and then we find something. Yeah.
At the beginning, I spoke of how business is both an art and a science, as is the process of interior design. And it sounds like with enough depth of knowledge of art, like you're able to find the little elements. This is the science part. You're able to find the little elements that can lead to that inspiring piece of art.
But also it's often not, it's often just a gut reaction. And obviously when I source and try to find something, I have a reaction, but it doesn't mean the client is going to have. So having a framework and a process at the beginning where we talk about how they want to feel and what that artwork should do in their home. Because a lot of times they either wanted to represent their heritage and their past and bring back a piece of that, or it can be celebrating a milestone where they are right now, or it can be something they aspire to that brings them the energy, the motivation of what's next in their career and life. So really having this framework helps me to understand the clients better. And then it's finding the needle in the haystack.
Yes. Okay.
But so if we have a larger project where the client really wants to invest, we have partners and collaborators that we then bring in a whole team that can help source the right artwork. So we can accompany both at that level.
Fully support your clients. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're just
Yeah.
fully supporting our clients.
I don't know everything about art. I would say, basic to medium knowledge, and I don't claim to know everything. I bring in the experts as needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have the apartment.
Oh, yes.
I do want to talk about that
Okay.
because I want to know how it relates to all of this. And I think it's a good bridge between our discussion about art and then the further discussion of the business side of your business. Let's talk about
The apartment. So I have connected with this gallery in New York, in Soho, a long time ago. A friend had her first exhibition there. That's how I discovered the gallery. And I kept showing up. We built the relationship, and that space always inspired me. And ever since I walked in, it's like, this feels like an apartment. And with my advertising marketing background and wanting now to put my point of view, my perspective, and this art forward approach out there, it was a perfect opportunity to fuse interior design, creating vignettes and a real space, and combining the artwork with the space. So we took this gallery, White Wall Gallery, and turned it into a New York City apartment. And that was quite a challenge, but it exemplifies what I want people to experience and invited them in to almost live with art, right? So we created a space. We had a whole entryway with a console table and a piece of artwork on top of it. When you walk into the space, we had a whole living room set up, including a fireplace that wasn't there before. Imagine that. And it was fall season. So we had the whole living room set up. After that, we had the dining space, which was also surrounded by enticing, appetizing artwork, wine glasses and horses, and you can imagine really conversation pieces in that space. Then in the back, what we called the party corner was a little more fun and risky at the same time. Next, there was an upstairs. Before you went upstairs, we had the red hot exit if you had partied too much. So we utilized the actual legal exit sign and space, but we created a story with the artwork there as well. There was red hot lava kind of looking artwork, the red hot exit. And then upstairs, we had a whole Zen zone and a bedroom space and a big desk overlooking the downstairs. And upstairs, we completely transformed the space. Wallpaper on the walls, paint, really creating that cozy atmosphere, and then curating the art, especially for that space. So we had sensual photography close to the bed. So if you're laying in bed, you see that. We had something more uplifting and inspiring, fresh next to the desk, your workspace. And then in the Zen zone, we had a whole moon landscape, a lounge chair, and it was just really coming to life. And that's how we wanted to invite people in to experience looking at art more than, I think, 28.6 seconds is the average a person looks at a piece of art. So we wanted to break that and invite them in and let them experience it for a minimum of 6 weeks. And then every week we had different programming, people coming in, and this gallery has big windows, and people kept coming in. Is this a furniture store now? What's happening here? So it drew really people in by creating that homey space in dialogue with the artwork.
So is it exactly how you imagined it would be in terms of how people reacted, or were you completely surprised or somewhere in between?
Was not how I envisioned it overall. There were a lot of struggles along the way. But you pivot, you make it happen. You have a deadline or opening night, right? But everyone loved it. And people were asking that night, like, okay, so now how much is the rent for the space? They wanted to move in, or can we all stay here tonight? There's a bed up there. Can we jump in and stay? So it was very well received. And also the artwork was sold, especially the one in the dining space. We had to replace a bunch of times because it kept selling out. People that had looked at artwork before in the gallery came back, and now they could imagine it better in their own space. So they ended up buying the piece. So it really brought in the people. And yeah, I think we accomplished the goal there.
That's lovely. You have a brilliant marketing mind. I think that goes without saying just from your credentials and this experience, this totally immersive experience, sold a lot of art by the sounds of it. How is marketing going in your own business?
You hit the painful point. Come on.
I
Why did
know.
you do that?
Because I think it's a pain point for a lot of people right now, especially. And I also think that when we feel threatened, we look for what everybody else is doing and we try to conform. We're looking for safety through conforming. And that's difficult for an art business. Interior design is an art business to have success through conformity.
First, I want to dismantle your belief in me that it's easy for me marketing for myself. Because the funny thing is, no one would expect, even I have all this experience. It's so hard, if not impossible, to do for yourself because you're attached to it. A different level of expectation. You might take less risks because it's your own business. You're connected to it on a different level than if it's a client of yours. There's something that creates that barrier. The industry is really tough to be visible, but also to stand out. A lot of people look at each other and try to replicate. It's natural to do so because you see it's working for them and you're like, okay, I'm just going to do the same. I'm going to post on Instagram. I did this experiment posting for 90 days every day. Didn't work. Didn't make a difference. So I think, especially today, you have to keep looking and evolving, but also be sure not to jump just on every trend. At least for me, from my perspective, you have to see where you might meet your ideal clients, your audience. I now focus a lot putting valuable insights that potential clients could actually use even without me. I'm focusing on LinkedIn, putting that out there, but then also on, sharing my perspective and my point of view. And sometimes that goes into personal as well, because our personal experiences inform how we live and work and deliver and value things and how we will be working with clients. But it's impossible to know what works and especially what's going to work for you because everyone is different.
It's definitely an art form because it's like trying to find a vibe.
Yes. And then there are also so many channels and opportunities out there. We're trying every day, right? And everyone is. One of the things I have found beneficial that's working for me, and I also think is in my zone and makes sense, is events, networking events, actually, again, meeting people in real life, not just virtual things. And those relationships actually have led to collaborations and partnerships. I mean, it's a long game. It's not going to happen. You meet someone, you're going to collaborate on something tomorrow. It might be a year, 6 months, or 2 years from now, but you just got to keep hanging in there and connect with people, also other people than the industry. I feel like in the industry, a lot of times we're in this bubble and we need to sometimes break out of the bubble. It's good to have the connections in the industry and be able to help each other if you do and chat with each other and maybe sometimes vent as well. But it's also helpful to look somewhere else in other industries. How are they marketing? What's working for them? And can I try that out? If we're all in the same bubble and all doing the same, no one is going to stand out. So you got to look somewhere else. And that's what, is one of the big pieces of those 89% of running a business.
So if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about the industry, what would that be?
First, I found this is an exciting question, but now you stumped me because let me think for a second. I think internally, if we're speaking from being inside of the industry, I think what would be helpful, maybe it would be helpful if there's one pricing model, for example, that everyone works with and agrees on. But I'm not sure if that's the right answer. It makes it difficult for clients to understand what we are doing and how we are charging. And it's a little opaque sometimes and creates uncertainty for the client. And that's why we decided to go with a flat rate, because it creates a lot of transparency and taking away the unknown. But I think a big problem in the industry is really there's no clear way or recommended way of how you price and charge and those kind of things. But on the other hand, I don't want to undermine creative business owners that find a better way of charging and working with their clients. And from outside of the industry, what I would change, if you're like as a client or as people looking at the industry, I think it's still undervalued, the craft, the art, the creativity that a designer brings to your home or your space. A lot of times they still think we're just picking color swatches and pillows, but it's so much more. It's creating this bigger vision, this whole big picture for a client that they often cannot pull together. Like, I don't think the industry has such a good standing with the outside world and the level of quality of life we can add. I don't know how we're going to do that, but I think that needs more work, the value of interior design.
I think both of those answers are related, that both the interior and the exterior perspective. HGTV certainly hasn't done the industry any favors at all. It kind of makes it look easy, like, hey, I want to look like this, and they hold up inspo pictures, whatever it is, but not understanding the construction of not just colors and textures and shapes, but the reconciliation between the heart of what the client is truly asking for, that they don't know what they're asking for, and how to achieve that. And on some cases, how this relates is that some interior designers price from a mode of how cheaply can I get this to the client, because I really don't want them to think that I'm like, I want them to pick me. I need this job. I don't want them to think that I'm doing anything untoward. The pricing is a very inducing topic for some designers, so they just shoot as low as they can, which does this industry no favors.
Yeah, it undermines the industry then. Like we underbidding each other, and that's where the value diminishes from the outside, the audience perspective.
Yeah. So I think that's really lovely how you find that core, starting with that inspiration, like when you wake up in the morning and what that piece does for you and how you start today. That's a quality of life issue. Yeah.
Absolutely.
One other thing that we discussed is that your larger mission is to bring art into spaces. This mission of yours, has driven how you design your business, your processes, the art itself. You created this magic for yourself that seems to really work for you in terms of this is why my business works because I have a passion for the art. I know how to work this art into my client spaces. Was there like a moment where this kind of occurred to you, or was it more of a growth into this perspective?
You mean focusing on the art?
Yes, yes, making that front and center of your business.
It really was the moment where I experienced it myself with the artwork
Mm,
in my bedroom. But that doesn't mean it immediately transformed and like changed my business overnight. It's very hard to niche down and focus because you think you're going to get less projects, less clients. And it's still sometimes uncomfortable to stand for something, to put that flag in the ground and realize and make sure that you yourself believe in that's what it's going to attract the right clients to me. It feels counterintuitive because you think the broader you are, the more things you can deliver and just be for everyone, the more people will come to you, the more clients you will have. So deciding to make art work front and center and part of my business, part of my process, really. You have to decide, and it's still evolving, right? Like in my communication, I put it in there, but I also make sure it's not overwhelming and keeping people away that might be a little uncomfortable and maybe they think they're not deserving of artwork. So it's about finding a balance how you communicate. Right now, I try to always have the artwork angle in my communication, sometimes more front and center, sometimes more subtle in the background. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be part of the process to find the right balance for sure.
Yeah.
But I know deep inside that's the secret sauce that we can deliver, and I know the outcome of it. And so I'm running with it.
And you're consciously, intentionally choosing it over and over again by the
Yes.
sounds of it.
Yes.
Lovely. What's next for you?
Ooh, good question. I have a big list of things I want to do, and that's another business challenge. First things first, you want to make sure, and I want to make sure that the business is running. You stay in your lane, you perfect it, you make it better every day, you enhance the client experience. But then I am looking outside and also at the industry and creating, again, speaking events, content that speaks about the combination, that dialogue of art and interior design, and that it's really part of what we do as designers, even it's often a hard part, to bring that more to the forefront in the industry as well and championing it and not treating artwork as an afterthought, but really as an asset. And yeah, I'm going to be speaking about it, raving about it, showing about it. I'm not going to stop and, find partners and collaborators that are on a similar mission and want to bring more artwork into more spaces and also make sure the surrounding supports the artwork. So the interior design lives up and the other way around to the artwork.
If people wanted to find you, how would you prefer they
Ooh.
reach out? How do they find you?
We are still polishing our website, but I think they should go there and then, use the contact form. And it's just Susann Eva Goerg. And the same on Instagram, Susann Eva Goerg. But you can probably put it in the show notes or something. So yeah, that would be the best way. Instagram, LinkedIn, and the website.
Well, thank you so much today. Thank you for your openness and thank you for the depth of everything that you brought today. That was really generous of you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to, put out the point of view, speak about it, also be open about it, because we all can learn from each other every day.
Amen. Thank you for listening to Why My Business Works. I hope you found some ideas to chew on, perspectives that give you a boost and a little shot of courage to do things your own way. Until next time, I'm Megan Dolly, and I'm rooting for you.